Hi, in this screencast I'm going to demonstrate how to create a glass panel using Inkscape. Before I get started, just want to mention the fact that a few weeks back a dedicated viewer, Zombie Brains, had a great idea of putting together a Flickr group for people to post their own examples of their work in Inkscape, and show that to you now. If you go to flickr.com/groups/screencasters, you'll see we've got at this point 46 members, about 87 photos, and you can carry on, leave messages down here in comments. It's really just a place for people to kind of show what they're doing and share their ideas on things. So it's proved pretty successful. It's a good idea, and just wanted to point it out, as Heathen X forgot to last time out, which is, knowing Heathen X, pretty much expected. Also, speaking of Heathen X, he also created or got some t-shirts made. He's going to Ohio Linux Fest. He's bringing a bunch of t-shirts there to give away, and he's kind of put it in my lap to start up either a Cafe Press store or a Spreadshirt store to kind of make those available. I don't know how many people would want them, but they look pretty good, I think, and so I'll try to do that in the next little while. So, moving on. Okay, so the other day I was following some links around, and somebody had pointed me to this media center called XBMC Media Center. I've never heard of it, but it appears that it's a media center application for Linux, Mac OS X, Windows, and Xbox, and it looked pretty neat. I took a look at the screenshots, and it says here to see current screenshots, please check out our Flickr page. So I thought I would do that. And once I got there, there was this photo here that caught my eye. And going to a larger size, I thought it looked pretty sharp. And I thought, hey, that can't be too difficult to create something like that in Inkscape. And I tried, took a little bit of time to figure out exactly how to get this look, but actually it's pretty easy. So if you want to create something like this, just a static image with this type of glass panel effect over a photo, that's what we're going to do right now. Okay? Now, let's get started. First thing I will do is hit Control-Shift-D, and I'm going to turn off the pesky border. Okay. Next, I'm going to import a photo to use. So let's see, where did I put it? The one we want to use is here. There it is. Okay, so we're going to put a glass panel over top of this photo. The way we're going to do it is, and you can see, I don't know if many people use this, but if you want to scroll, obviously you can hold the Control key and use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. You can just scroll up and down if you don't hold any keys. With your mouse wheel you can just move it up and down. But if you want to go left and right, you actually hold the Shift key and scroll the scroll wheel, and you will move left and right, which I found kind of useful in this tutorial. So what I will do is then now put in a panel on here. Now the way I'm going to do it is, first of all, I'm going to select this photo and make a duplicate. Hold Control-D while it's selected to make a duplicate. Now there's two images, one on top of the other. Next I will create the size of my panel. This is where you'd pick the size and shape of the panel. I'm going to make a sharp corner here, and just to make things easier, maybe we'll center it on the image, just in case things get messed up later. It's nice and easy to center it, but it is important that you pick a spot. You'll see why a bit later. You won't really easily be able to move this thing around wherever you want, which is kind of one of the shortcomings of this method, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So that's the rectangle I'm going to pick, and I'm going to first of all bring up the fill and stroke dialog. I like to make this black, and then just tone down the opacity a bit. Okay, now I will move this holding control, so I want to hold the control key so that it stays horizontal. I don't mess up that alignment. Hold the shift key, scroll over. Okay, and then zoom out a little bit. Now I'm going to make several copies of this image. Actually, first I will turn it into a path. So having it selected, path, object to path. So this is now no longer a rectangle but a path. I'll hit Control D and then Control drag it over. I need these two single rectangles or paths, and then I'm going to do another one and I'm going to duplicate it. So there's two here. I'm going to create another duplicate of both of those, drag it over. So you can see I've got 2, 2, 1, and 1. And then I am also going to need another single one over here, and I'm leaving a space here. This is just really for my organization of it. I found this was the clearest way to do it, to explain it as I do it. So next up, I'm going to, what these really are is one is for the shadow, one is for clipping out this image, which you'll see in a second. These two pairs are for creating the outside border. These two are for creating the little rim outline of the frame, and we're going to use one of these as the inside, and then this one's going to be kind of a highlight shine to the panel. So probably easier if I actually get started. First things first, I'll select this image. I'll hit Control, or this rectangle. I'll hit Control J. I'm just selecting the top one, not both of them, just the top one. If I hit Control J, what that does is it creates a dynamic offset. It gives me this little handle in the top left, and I'm just going to drag it in. You can see how it offsets the shape in. I'm going to pick some width that I like, something like that maybe. Okay, it's different than scaling. If you have a rectangle, let's back up. I'll show you what I mean. If you just grab the rectangle and the top rectangle, and you can hold Control Shift and size this thing, but do you see how it goes out of proportion? Okay, so it's kind of hard to tell maybe, but this distance is bigger than this distance because it's a rectangle. Okay, so we don't want to scale it. What we want to do is offset it. So again, select just the top one, Control J, or you can say Path, Dynamic Offset. And then once you have that handle, you can drag it in to what you want, which gives you an even offset. This is useful for doing picture frames, for instance, where it's a lot nicer than just trying to scale it. You'll never get it to be even if the picture is rectangular. So we do a dynamic offset here, and that's good enough. Now I will, before I subtract these two, I'm going to actually highlight the inner one, hit Control D to create a duplicate, and move it over here. Now I can go in here, select the back one, hold Shift, select the front one, and then do Path Difference. Okay, so I've only got this outline now. Now I'm going to do the same thing here, except the offset I'm going to use is just a lot smaller, a lot thinner. It's the same operation. Select the top object, Control J, and then I will just drag in a little bit. Probably something like that. Alright. And I'm actually going to subtract these two. Path Difference. Okay, so I've got this rectangle, this one, and then this inside one, which fits nicely in here. So I'm going to select, I'm going to put this one on top of this thicker one. So I'll hold, I'll select this one, hold Shift, select this one, bring up my alignment box. I make sure I've got first selected. What this does is, if you select this one first, it will align the second object with the first, okay, which I find easiest most of the time. So now you can see I've got the thin one on top of the thicker one. And now again, I'll take either one of these as the first selected, hold Shift, select the second one, and again, center. Okay, now it's a bit hard to see, what we'll do is we'll select the outer one. We will make it, bring in the fill and stroke dialog box. We're going to make it white. Okay. Probably leave the opacity somewhere. Actually, just to make things clear, maybe we'll leave it gray for now. We'll just make it a lighter gray. So you've got the inside rectangle, the outside one, and then this highlight shape. We're going to turn that one white and a little more opaque. So there's the three objects right there. Okay, so we need that together, so maybe we'll just group it. And this one here, I'm going to use as my shine. What I have found works best is take the Bezier tool, and I've done this in other screencasts. Maybe we'll make it almost dead flat. I draw a shape above it, drag it to where I want. I highlight both and say path intersection. I'm just cutting it where they intersect. That's going to be my highlight. Okay. For now, maybe we'll make it red just so we can tell where it is. Okay. So now, what we're going to do first is take this second object. We're going to drag it on top. Actually, I can highlight the image, hold Shift, highlight this, and again, center it. That's where we wanted it. Then I'm going to select the image, hold Shift, select the rectangle, and I'm going to do Object, Clip, Set. Seems to disappear. It's actually there. If I drag it up, you'll see that I've clipped it. Okay. This one, the lowest object, it's just above this first image. I'm going to make that fully opaque and drag it over, and you'll see it. Actually, we'll probably hold this, and we will bring up the alignment dialog, center it again. Okay. And what I will do here is I'm going to do that Control J thing again, and just going to expand it out just slightly. Now I'm going to actually blur it, maybe a 3, maybe a 4. And I'm going to, while it's selected, I'm going to hit Page Down to lower it below that clipped object. There you can see it. Now that might be a little bit subtle for you to see, but there's a shadow that peeks out of there. Now, what I might do is actually undo a little bit. I'm going to make sure this is a path, hit Control J, and just bring it out a little bit more even. I want that shadow to show up a little better. We'll try 4 again. Maybe 3 is better. Page down, put it below. That's a little bit clearer. So you can see that shadow underneath. Okay, there, it's a little more visible. Right. Next, I'm going to take this group of objects I created. Again, select the image, select the group, bring in the alignment, and center it. Now, this group of 3 objects, okay, make sure it's on top, this group, and then I'm going to hit Control-Shift-G to break it up into its 3 pieces. Okay. Now, I want the outside line here, the one that's more opaque. I'll leave it that way. This one in here, inside, make sure I select that, and you'll see that it's now, this one, this fat border here, I'll reduce it to around, I don't know, 32% opacity, I guess. And then select the inside one, and I'm actually going to make that more opaque. Something like that. Oops. There we go. So if we zoom out, there we've got our glass panel. It's kind of offset against it. Now, one other touch which would be nice is maybe select the image, hold Shift, select this highlight, and bring it on top, center it. And now it's not on top, obviously. So let's just back up. If you have problems selecting it, you know that it's really not on top. So what we can do is, while this is selected, make sure it's the uppermost object by hitting this button, raise selection to top. Select the bitmap, hold shift, select the highlight, and again align it. That's better. So now when it's selected, and again I've done this one on several screencasts in the past, I will first of all make it white. I will make it fully opaque. Okay, while it's selected, I'm going to hit the gradient button and I'm going to drag. See, the gradient's not set right because of all the practicing I've been doing. What's actually there now is a black to transparent gradient. So all I have to do is change it. I hit edit on this gradient, and in this drop down I pick each, the beginning of the gradient, the end of the gradient. So the beginning, we'll adjust it to make it white, fully opaque, and then we'll select the bottom and make it white, fully transparent. The alpha is 0. That's the look I want. Okay. Now if you want, while it's selected, you can hit this button again and adjust. I like to basically make it a little more gradual, and then while it's selected, I bring down its overall opacity. I want it to be more subtle than that. Even more subtle than that, probably. Okay, so there's my glass panel. And then, as far as that goes, you can put whatever you want. What I generally do is like to group that so I don't screw it up. And then I can do different things. Now, one tip might be that people run into problems with Inkscape. One thing they do is they try to, they have two Inkscape sessions open. They want to cut and paste one object from one Inkscape session into another, and sometimes it doesn't work, and people get flustered when they try it. The key here is that for Inkscape to do this cut and paste, you have to open the second Inkscape instance from the first one. So you can't just go to your menu and say Graphics Inkscape. That won't work. So what you have to do is from Inkscape, say File New, or sorry, File Open, and then you basically want to, let's see if I can find it here. I think I saved it in this folder. Yeah. So this is the SVG file I created when I was doing the screencast on LCD digits. So you can see that I've got two Inkscape windows open now, and what I can actually do is window the objects I want to take, edit, copy, and then in the first instance say edit, paste. There they are here, and now I can adjust them to whatever size I want and place them. I probably use the alignment tool and paste them where I want. Now obviously that's pretty boring right there. One thing you can do is, another idea you might have is actually good for Linux and Mac users. I know I see a lot of this stuff on Lifehacker, the Lifehacker site recently, where they have desktop wallpapers that have calendars on them. And one of the things I was thinking about was, well, maybe you could use something like this to create a nice calendar. And even a more general tip to create calendars, if you're a Mac user or a Linux user, if you go to the command line, the terminal, and I think it's the same in Mac, I'm not 100% sure, but in Linux, what you can do, if you can use the cal command, say cal, and generate a calendar. By default, it gives you the current month. Now, if you wanted, you can do things like calendar 3 2008, which would give you the March 2008 calendar. Okay, and it just gives it to you in a text format. So what I did was I said, okay, let's say Cal, today's month, or Cal, let's say 9/2008, and I want to put that in a text file. Okay, so I could say calendar.text, right? And now I can use Inkscape and say import. It's in my home directory. Calendar. And you can see that Inkscape brings it in here. Okay. Now what it does is it brings it in as a group. If you ungroup it, it brings each line in as a group of text. So you can even highlight that, Control-Shift-T, and change the font. One tip though is to keep it as a monospaced font. So you don't want to change it to something like, I don't know, like a sans font, because the alignment, if you watch, of all the numbers will go haywire. So what I do is make sure I pick a nice monospaced font. Let's say this one. And you can then maybe change the color to something you might like better. Something like that. And now instead of these digits, I might want to do something like enlarge them, maybe even group it. Again, align them. And there you have a nice calendar too. Okay, that's really it. You can use that probably to do mock-ups, or to do little widgets on your website, or desktop wallpaper, things like that. Might be useful and pretty quick. And I think that is it. Thank you very much for watching.